ladies and gentlemen, it's Modern Investing on Pod TV. My name is Sasha Star, and today we have Dr. Milan Somberg. Welcome to the show, Milan.
Great to be here and honored too. Thank you.
Yes, and also we have Jim Eid from Eid Foundation. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Hi, Sasha. Nice to be here again.
Great to have you. We also sent invitation to Michael Blair, and he may join us today, maybe not today, next week. So let's start with today is a Wednesday. It's normally a day when all the stocks are going higher. But today it's not typical, not all stocks, I'm joking. But today, remember, it's a short week. Yesterday was a big celebration of Independence Day in the United States. And day before, the market was open only for 3.5 hours. So that's not a typical week. It's not a typical Wednesday. However, all my stocks are up today, I must say. And hopefully, if some of you are following my recommendations, you should do well, even on a day like today. And Jim, we discussed a day or two before the stock Palantir that I mentioned that I already have a few thousand shares, and you mentioned that you're watching this stock. And so what do you think about this company?
Well, it's another AI play. And, when I bought NVIDIA at the same time that I bought this stock, and it's been rewarding me ever since. And I think that all the analysis that I see seems that it's going to produce significantly more revenues in the future, which is always good news. I mean, it's kind of all about the money.
And, also, we have a very substantial board of directors, and there are a lot of investment funds that are in. So I think we're in a pretty good company. And unlike other young AI companies, this one's been around for a while.
Yeah.
And their stock was a year, 2 years ago, was very much, so much higher. It was in 50s, 60s or so. So they're pretty good, in my opinion, risk-reward ratio. Here, the stock may move a little bit lower. So yeah, there are different ways to play it. You may sell some puts, of course, and although you will not get as much money if you will buy stock outright and wait until it will come to higher levels. By the way, on Sunday, we were invited to one of my friend's house, and he's very big into investments in stocks or so, and that's all what he's doing. And apparently, he doesn't own any stocks. The only thing is, in so-called core portfolio, he has nothing but Canadian banks. And they're very good dividends, and they're quite stable, as we'll know. And in his so-called fund portfolio, which is quite substantial, I'll tell you that, he has no stocks whatsoever. All he does is selling puts. But what he does, for example, if, say, NVIDIA is, say, $420, for example, he would sell 320 puts, but he would sell 50, 100, maybe even 150 puts, counting that the stock in whatever 2-3 months that he is selling puts will never bounce so much deep from the present level, so he will not get exercise and he will keep all the premium. So far, that strategy, not only with NVIDIA, but other stocks, works really well for him. In the meantime, I'd like to ask Milan what your observation on the market and what you're doing these days.
Well, one interesting thing that came, I think today's Wall Street Journal talked about Toyota has come up with a new battery, which is a solid-state battery, and it can be charged up to over 1,000 kilometers in less than 10 minutes. Now, they have prototypes only, and very often prototypes are difficult to reach mainstream. Nevertheless, it's very encouraging. So that really bodes well for electric cars, and it's something that we should keep an eye on. I don't know whether Toyota is a car to be, company would be buying, because we don't advise buying individual stocks in core portfolios. We talk about buying the American economy as a whole by buying an exchange-traded fund which tracks the S&P 500, and SPY is the best example of that. So that's an interesting thing to observe, is what Toyota has done with this new battery, because it'll transform the way we deal with electric cars enormously. Now, interesting experience I had this morning that I want to share with you. I went to the grocery store and I bought some small amount of groceries. I found I forgot my wallet. So I said to the cashier, "Oh, I have to put this aside. I'll be back in 10 or 15 minutes with my wallet." A total stranger lady says, "I'll pay for that." A total stranger said, "I'll pay for that." Now, you know, there's a grocery store here which allows us, and I do this all the time when I go to that particular store, to buy a bag of food for the needy. So this is what this lady did, except I'm not needy. Total stranger. Now, interestingly, how would Wall Street respond to that? I'd like to mention, as I often do, that we do need Wall Street to complete our transactions, but they're not our friend. For example, Goldman Sachs has 14 business principles, the last one of which is, listen to this carefully, integrity and honesty are at the heart of our business. Number 14, integrity and honesty are at the heart of our business. That's pretty comforting, isn't it? Now, Goldman Sachs got fined $4 million last year for policies and procedure failures. $4 million. Now, 10 years ago, it was fined $550 million for misstating and omitting key facts regarding collateralized debt obligation, which they were pushing and promoting. $550 million 10 years ago. 2 years ago, they were fined $1 billion. That's with a B, like in Bravo. $1 billion for violating the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. Now, that's not so comforting, is it? So,
Nobody's perfect, Milan.
sorry?
Nobody's perfect.
Yeah, nobody. Let's take a look at the compensation of the executives on Wall Street. Now, I'm a dentist, and the dentists, top earning, the average dentist makes more than any other group of people today. So the average dentist is doing about $200,000 a year. And a top earning dentist can make $500,000, and that's about the limit. And if you have a husband and wife specialist, and I know a couple of them, a few of them, they're pulling in $1 million a year. Now, the husband and wife who work for the grocery store, and they pay their mortgage and raise kids on the income that the two of them make at the grocery store, they have a hard time understanding somebody earning $1 million a year, like a dental couple specialist can do. And so would teachers and nurses. I think that teachers and nurses are the most underappreciated people in our society. They would have a hard time understanding that. Now, let's take a look at the compensation that Wall Street executives make. Last year, David Solomon, who heads Goldman Sachs, made just under $32 million. 50, 60 years ago, top earning professionals and top earning bankers, investment bankers, had about the same sort of income, about equal. Today, a guy like me would need 60 years of earnings to equal what David Solomon made last year. John Walton, who is the president, the chief operating officer, made just under $30 million. And they were able to do that in spite of paying those kind of fines, like I'm talking about, $1 billion a couple of years ago. Dennis Coleman, who is the chief financial officer there at the Goldman Sachs, made $23.5 million. Now, that's hard to understand. And I would ask Michael Blair if you can explain that. I would ask any of you if you can explain what happened in that period of time when 50, 55 years ago, top earning professionals, top earning investment bankers had similar incomes. What happened since then?
Well, let's see, the last guys that you quoted, he made only $23 million. So obviously he didn't work as hard as David Solomon, for example, and his other people. So there is a certain scale and the measurement of individual performance. So this is very sophisticated approach, and we must learn from them something.
Well-
Whoever gets fined the most gets paid the most.
Yeah.
He's not cheating hard enough, so he's not rewarded as well.
Crime pays unless you get caught.
And if they get caught, they budget for it and pay it off. No one goes to jail. No one does any time. This is just
The
financial.
question though is, Milan, is that their compensation, is it legal or illegal? Because if it's illegal and they can get away with it and keep company prosperous and profitable, then frankly, with all due respect, I don't see anything wrong with that. Now, if the company is not profitable and they're sucking in the money that otherwise should be going into compensation to shareholders, like dividends and so on, then I would definitely question that approach.
Pasha, you say, is it legal or is it illegal? There is a concept which I learned from a friend, which he calls legal crime. It's legal, but it's criminal because it is so immoral. A prime example of that would be a few years ago, you could go to jail for insider trading, unless you were a member of American Congress. Yeah, people in Congress would not go to jail for insider trading because they always know what's happening on the inside. That was their excuse, because their people who elected them constantly are approaching them about whatever they're doing, so they always have inside information. There's an example of legal crime. Another example of legal crime is the hidden fees. The list of hidden fees is long, a long one, and it's all legal, and it is immoral. So, I cannot give you a definition of obscenity, but I know it when I see it.
Yeah, I tend to look at it that way as well. There's they're basically getting away with whatever they can, and if you're okay with that, fine. But they're always one step ahead of the authorities. The rules and regulations are put in place to stop this kind of immoral behavior, but they're always one step ahead, so they get away with it again and again. We have these people like, you said people in Congress are inside traders. Well, if you went to Yale and you're part of Skull and Bones, you're an insider, man. You don't get caught and sent to jail. There's all these types of things. But if you're someone like Martha Stewart without the connections, you get thrown in jail. So these are the types of selective prosecutions that you mentioned. Nurses and teachers, they're primarily women, and so they've primarily been underpaid, and the CEOs are primarily males, and they've been primarily overpaid. This is part of our society, and you can say that's the way it works. But when you're shipping jobs overseas, and then you get a multi-million-dollar bonus for doing it, you're taking away American jobs. You're sending them overseas. You're hurting the American economy, but your company's bottom line is fine. It looks like you made more profit because there are fewer, they don't have these horrendous laws for like child labor laws, messy things like that. So you can make labor much cheaper, and then you get rewarded for making labor much cheaper, but it's not moral, and it's harmful to the country. So, why can we pass a legislation to say you can't do that anymore? No, we can't do that.
The reason we can't do that is people who control the money also control the political process, don't they?
I agree with that completely. The only thing that we can do is not invest in these companies that are doing these immoral practices. And so that's one of the things when I take my investments seriously. I don't invest in companies as much as I can, tell, because you can't always tell. But as much as I can tell, if you're shipping jobs overseas, I don't want to be a part of, giving my money to you to help you do that.
Would you invest in cigarette companies, for example?
No,
Probably.
exactly. It's the same type of thing.
I would. Yes, I would.
Recently, they introduced legislation in which each cigarette is marked as something dangerous to your health. Used to be on the package only. Now each cigarette individually is marked that way. And investing in cigarettes has been very profitable. You know that when the executives of cigarette companies used to tell us that 8 out of 10 doctors smoke Lucky Strikes,
Yeah.
while the executives themselves did not smoke, and you can still make a lot of money investing in cigarettes. So,
There is a lot of talk about that coffee is dangerous for your health. So is white bread. So is not so white bread. So
Yep.
is certain meats, like red meat, for example, and on and on and on. The list goes endless. So the cigarettes is just one of those things, but it's less in Canada and United States, but all over the world, especially markets like China, India. You can even watch some movies on Netflix where something happening in the countries like India or China or even Turkey or some others. The people smoke non-stop everywhere, all over the
well,
place.
look at movies that were filmed 50 years ago.
Oh,
Humphrey,
yeah.
people
Yeah,
like that.
absolutely.
The cigarette
Martini and a cigarette in the other hand.
and the cigarette manufacturers pay to be shown.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah,
So-
and in the '60s they passed legislation, and the commercials had to change, and so you weren't pushing it on people anymore. And so this was the case where the regulations really helped. People
Yeah.
stopped dying of lung cancer as much, and there was a direct correlation. It's not so iffy when it comes to cigarettes. There's proven scientific facts, and of course,
No,
whether or not you invest in it, that's up to you. I'm not judging you for whether or not you invest. It's just a question of mind.
British American Tobacco is paying today 8.5% dividend. There are
See?
there are some probably other stocks that or REITs that are paying maybe this and even higher dividends. But if you're looking at British American Tobacco, their track record of paying dividends and increasing them regularly, and their balance sheet, and you think, okay, they're saying cigarettes, that's not so good. Their financial track record is very impressive. Then what you do, you go to something else, and some REITs, especially if they own commercial real estate, they may have some difficulties quite strongly.
And some of these companies, they're so multi-invested into so many aspects of it. You really, when you invest in them, you don't have any idea where your money's really going.
Absolutely, yeah.
This is a quandary when you're trying to be an ethical investor, on top of being a wise financial investor. You have your work cut out for you investigating certain companies and determining whether or not they're worthy of being supported. Because really, your investment in them is supporting them, and so
at the time when they're behaving in ways that we don't approve of, they are meeting the regulations of the country within which they're working. Now, Sasha was talking earlier about white bread, how that's bad for you, and a whole lot of other things like that. It's very straightforward. If we ate the way we ate when we were hunters and gatherers, the list of diseases, half of which are self-inflicted diseases. Most diabetes, for example, type 2 diabetes in adults is self-inflicted. Excess weight, of course, is self-inflicted, and everything that goes with it. If we ate the way hunters and gatherers ate, we would eliminate 1/2 of the hospital occupancy.
Don't forget that hunters and gatherers, their lifespan was 25, maybe 30 years. That's about it.
Right about that. The reason why the lifespan is so much longer today is because of medical intervention, not because we are eating or behaving more sensibly, but because medicine is making it possible for us to live longer than we ever did before. For example, infant mortality and maternal deaths at birth are virtually zero now. Used to be 50% under hunter and gatherer conditions. So we are living longer. because of medicine and not because we're behaving properly. But like I said earlier, it's well known that if we ate the way hunters and gatherers did, and on an individual basis, yes, we can do that. We can be hunters and gatherers in the grocery store. If we ate that way, the doctors would have a lot more time for fishing and golfing. And so would dentists. So
Well,
that's possible on an individual basis. But companies, they push sugar into everything. Under natural conditions, sugar is about 8 to 10% in an apple and in grapes, in just about everything. No more than 8 or 10%, with a possible exception of dates, which we don't understand why dates have so much more sugar. But if we
yeah. No wonder I like them.
we hunted and gathered in the grocery store and kept our sugar consumption to 10% or less of overall calories that we take in, we would have a lot more time. The medical doctors and dentists would have a lot more time for golf and fishing. Yeah, so that's understood. And so, yes, these companies that push the cookies and the pastries and the various foods which have a much higher sugar concentration are evil. But they're making money. So,
Well, the other thing is, like, I gifted shares in Beyond Meat to my niece when she turned 16, and because she's vegan, and I thought, no, this is a good company for it, and the company took off, and I was really kind of happy, and then it's tanked since then. And so all these plant-based companies, they became the thing for a while, and they got built up, and they've come crashing back to earth. So it's all about the revenues, and can you sustain them? And
you mentioned that. That's interesting, Jim. Partly the reason for that, I believe, is because they charged much more than the real stuff, and it was made of vegetables entirely. Now, another area which is now developing, which is very exciting, which is lab-grown meat.
yes, I just read about that.
Right. Kill the animal, take a couple of cells, and grow them in the laboratory. And so, lab-made chicken, for example, has been legal in Singapore for a while now, and it's been cleared recently in the United States and Canada. Now, it's still not produced in low-cost enough quantities, but someday it will be. And then the changes that we're going to see globally in climate are going to be enormous. Cattle contribute something like 20% to the global environmental changes.
Methane,
A cat breeder, I would be looking very carefully at another line of work.
Well, also, to go back to, one of the things for the modern investor is it's very difficult to track. You mentioned the batteries for electric vehicles, and Tesla seemed to get a lock on it. Like all of a sudden, the sort of industry standard has gone to Tesla. And so the infrastructure that it needs to support electronic vehicles is being built according to Tesla's standards. And so General Motors and those have to adapt. Now, if you get batteries that all of a sudden get to be so much better than the ones that we currently have, which we've been predicting will happen and is certain to happen at some point, then all of that we have to recalculate all of that. And so who's in the lead then? So these are the types of things that either keep you up at night or keep you interested during the day.
Jim, you remember times, say 40 years ago, when video recorders were becoming popular, and Sony's standard was so much better than VHS, and the sheer power of distribution and selling VHS, finally Sony had to admit that they cannot compete, because nobody except Sony had that standard available. And eventually this, although it didn't last long because of the further developments in that entertainment field. Right. Listen, I would like to ask you, Milan, about something, what you were saying, that Wall Street is not our friend. Well, we don't know who are our friends, tailors or bookkeepers or some waiters in a restaurant or any other thing. But at least with them, I will talk about myself. I interact sometimes with them here and there, I not even thinking whether they're friends or not. I just get whatever I need and pay, and that's transactional, actually.
Oh, let me
Thing.
let me
But
just
hold on. But would I like to ask you? You see, I'm doing a lot of trading, as you know, and at no point I interact with Wall Street. Not that I miss it; it's just not there. So therefore, to me, even my massagist is more relevant than Wall Street because you see, I interact with my massage caregiver, but not Wall Street. So let's see if I'm buying 1,000 shares of Nvidia. I type NVDA, I press the button, and I see the stock there. So what's exactly I'm doing through discount broker here in Toronto, not too far actually from me, by the name Questrade. They charge $4.95 for any transaction. Doesn't matter what you're buying, selling, or what, how many shares at what price. And so, where is my interaction with Wall Street that I should care about it or think about it or do anything about it? How would you
ask
respond?
let's instead of saying our friend, let's use the word trust. Do you trust your dentist, Sasha?
Why I don't understand where is my trust into Wall Street, whether there is a trust or there is not, and there very little trust or a lot of trust. I don't have even time to figure that out. I don't care about the trust in Wall Street. Just I don't interact with Wall Street in any meaningful way.
I see your point, Sasha. Interestingly, Michael Lewis pointed out the reason why he left Wall Street Bank is because in all their meetings, they spend their time entirely discussing how to get more money out of you, out of other investors. They don't spend 1 minute talking about how they can help you making more money. So they're not your friend. Yeah, but you're quite right about saying that you don't
How
make.
does it affect me in any meaningful way? How? Okay, they discuss 99% of the time how to make more money. Any business, if they have normal minds, they have to discuss and trying to squeeze as much profit for their company as possible, fighting their competitors, fighting the market trends, or whatsoever. So I don't have any problem with this concept that they spend time to discuss how to.
No, I think Milan is warning the less sophisticated investor not to listen to the talking heads on television, not to listen to the broker that might be on the other end of a phone trying to sell them something. And your point, Sasha, is well taken, is if you're an individual investor, you free yourself of all of that. I would like to point out one thing, though, and I keep hitting the Fed for this, is when they're trying to hike interest rates on inflation. One of the things you just talked about is these boardrooms in the central, they aren't unlike any other business. Right now, the businesses are pricing, seeing what the prices the customer will absorb. This is the point of inflation right now. They're using inflation to just jack up their prices, and
Absolutely.
customers are still buying it. And so they're rewarding they're patting each other on the back, and their expenses aren't going up. This is all profit. And they're just hiking the prices up, and the Fed keeps going, oh man, we have to hike their interest rates to stop this. It has nothing to do with the interest rates. So it's crazy that they're looking at the wrong data. People are exploiting inflation to see how much people are willing to pay for the commodities that they used to pay less for.
Jim. And Sasha, you're quite right about every business is trying to make as much money as possible. To quote Adam Smith, who more than a couple of 100 years ago, he said, it is not because of the benevolence of the butcher and the brewer and the baker that we get our meal. It is for their self-regard, self-interest. So now,
Yeah.
he's trying to make more money. Let's take a look at a house builder. He's trying to sell you more house because he will make more money, but you will get more house for it. There's something in exchange. That doesn't happen on Wall Street. Wall Street is not making your situation better. If you make money, wonderful, but not important. The important thing is for Wall Street to make money. And so, yeah, the house builder, the guy who wants to sell you a better car or a better set of skis or a better camera, it will be making more money, but you're getting a better product. You're not getting a better product from Wall Street. They totally ignore you.
You see, the people on average investor to deal with companies like JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs, it's it's the same thing like to walk to car dealership which sells Bentley and Rolls Royces, and you
Yeah.
can watch these wonderful cars, but you're not going to buy one because it's out of your league for most of the people. So basically, these investment banks, they're making their money on proprietary trading, on merger and acquisitions fees, and they don't care, don't have time to care about individual investors and how
Right,
to freeze
right.
them. It's unproductive, and you can make $100 million in fees on certain merger and acquisitions. You have proprietary trading, when Goldman Sachs is making huge amount of money, and that's why I like to buy them before the earnings report. And individual investors just nobody has time. Maybe the people who are being paid not $23 million, but $23,000. Maybe these people will deal with
Yeah.
individual investors. That's all what's worth for them to do.
Yeah. No, it's good. You're making good points. The idea is to take care of yourself because no one's going to do it for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So forget the Wall Street. Are they our friends, our enemies, or anything else? It's the same thing. Like I will think about, okay, here is a lion in Africa somewhere else. Is this lion is my friend or my enemy? I don't care. I'll never meet him. Okay, he was born. He'll die one day, and I just don't care. Therefore, I don't care about Wall Street. They're friends, they're enemies. I really don't.
Sasha, Sasha, that the average investor underperforms the market by 40%. That 40% is going to those salaries that the Wall Street executives are making, and it's going to pay the fines. Who is paying those hundreds of $1 millions of fines for which they budget? Who is paying for their executive compensation? You and I.
Milan, I think uh, that 40% of losses of average portfolio, they're self-inflicted losses. It's not Wall Street who is guilty of your losses. It's you yourself, an average investor, Mr. Nobody. You lost your 40%, and next year you lose another 50%. It's all self-inflicted torture to yourself, and nobody is guilty. And I don't think that the bonuses of Goldman Sachs top people depend on these losses. It's not.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of me that is in complete agreement with you, Sasha. The other part of me is that packaging makes a difference. For example, if you tell me like I can't have certain foods, and if you tell me that this package of food that I'm selling you is free of these things that I'm allergic to, I buy it and I consume it and I have an allergic reaction, there has to be some price for that. And so if you're packaging something and selling it to somebody as a glorious investment opportunity that's going to make you a guaranteed 100% over 3 months, then the person invests and it bombs. You can say, well, it's personal responsibility. You shouldn't have bought it. But you can also say, hey, look, this guy's lying. He's
Yeah.
putting together snake oil, selling it. And this is not something that we can support.
Jim, but you don't see very often on CNBC somebody who is promoting a wonderful investment that will pay off in 3 months and will make so much profit.
No, I'm exaggerating to
We're
make
exaggerating.
Yeah.
What most likely may happen is to some people that they will have unscrupulous financial advisor who will push some complete garbage stocks, penny stocks, some, I don't know, it could be some crypto funds or something like this. That can happen. But again, this also has nothing to do with Wall Street because this is very individual interaction between a gullible investor and.
Well, but there is pressure on these people sometimes. They don't have to be unscrupulous. They just have to be, selling the company, whatever the company is pushing, they're selling. And
Now-
so, these stockbrokers get a new package to sell to some people. They look and they say, who do I have that has $500,000 in net worth and investment funds. Okay, we can sell them this new bond package that the company is pushing, and every time I sell it, I get an extra bonus.
Yeah, it's commission products. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah.
But again, we discussed several times that investments is a self-to-do procedure. You have to select yourself what you're buying, what you're selling, what are your goals,
Wait.
and so on. And those people should not lose, in my opinion, 40% unless they're doing very naive.
It's buyer beware.
thing,
I think it's the message Milan is suggesting. Buyer beware.
And they rely on unscrupulous investment advisors, and that's how they're losing sometimes 40%, and sometimes much more than that. Then we are unable to help these people because it seems to me that a lot of these people enjoy a process of interaction with someone who they consider to be so much above them in financial
There's something to that, Sasha. That's interesting.
And you can't restrict people to do something what they enjoy. So some people enjoy losing this 40% or so because they say, well, I lost 40%, but a lot of other people also lost 40%. Some people lost actually 50%, right? So I didn't do so bad. Yeah, some people made money, but it doesn't matter. I had very good guy. He's very trustworthy. He's brilliant guy. He's a good talker. So I lost 40%. So next year, maybe I'll lose only 35%.
You mentioned the word gullible investor.
Yeah.
Could you replace the word gullible with the word trusting? Do we have the right to trust our advisors? Do you trust your accountant? Yes, you do. Do you trust your lawyer? Yes, you do. Do you trust your financial advisor? Maybe you should be careful with that one.
Well, there are some good financial advisors, I believe. I never met one, but some people believe they're good financial advisors. So maybe you could trust.
You know the qualifications required to be a financial advisor?
There are no qualifications of any kind.
Zero.
Yes.
That's right.
Hey, Sasha, Milan, I have a great discussion, but I just had a quick question because I have some friends that are in the MLM area, those multi-level markets. And I want to say that a couple of those companies are in the stock market and are on the stock market. So is that the case or am I mistaken? Because I think Amway is on the stock market and I'm pretty sure Prepaid Legal is as well. So are those some of those that you might not want to trust? Because a lot of times MLMs can be very dangerous from what I've been told. I'm not invested in any of them, but they do seem like they're on the stock market. I was just wondering, is that one of those that might be the gullible kinds that y'all are talking about?
I don't think that it's dangerous, really, because I never heard that somebody lost $100,000 or $5 million. I know back 30, maybe even 40 years ago, I knew a guy who became member of Amway, and to start, he was required to purchase certain a number of packages of some kind of washing detergent or something like this.
Whatever, yeah.
He bought it, and for about 2 years, his apartment was stuck with packages from the bottom up to his ceiling, and he was trying to, he was using a lot of detergent himself, his wife, his family, his friends, and so on. He sold some, and it was a good experience. It's a life experience for him, okay?
So sounds like a life experience. Hey, Milan, I think that one of those is a medical one, and you can correct me, but I know Prepaid Legal, but one of my friends had told me about one that was involved in the medical space that's in MLM too. I wish I could think of the name of it, but it is definitely a MLM that involves the medical industry, just like Prepaid involves the legal industry.
Yeah. Well, if you can't trust people in medicine, you can't trust anybody. People who go to the caring professions, medicine, nursing, veterinary medicine, and so on, are caring people. They're the kind of people who feel pain when they see a bird with a broken wing. Mm-hmm. And they're the kind of people who want to go and help. That's their primary motivation. And making money is okay, but it's not the driving force.
I'm not very familiar with the prepaid legal. What I've heard though is that some people who purchase that plan or whatever it might be, and they needed that at the time when they needed, they discovered that all they got paid for a letter from not even a lawyer, maybe a paralegal or somebody who just punched keys on the computer and got a copy of somewhere else. And that was about it. And they needed something more of a legal help, then they had to pay for it.
Right. Yeah, it's a buyer beware again. And, I do think that, like, for example, having a discipline and sticking to it, like we opened the show talking about Palantir, and I noticed it because it was selling at one high price, and it was pummeled, and it was at a lower price, but it was still a sound company. And what I liked about it was the prospects of the AI on top of it. And the same thing happened to NVIDIA. The semiconductor sector basically got punished. And so that's where I look for opportunities to buy when something is good, solid, but has gone through some bad publicity or some just a twist of fate, that all of a sudden they're out of favor for whatever reason. It doesn't matter to me. They've just been unfairly punished to a level that their earnings support a much higher level. And that's what I try to buy.
I would like to mention that one of my holdings is ABV. It's ABBV symbol. It's
Right.
a well-known pharmaceutical company, so on, and it was going down for quite a long time. And my theory: stock has to go down all the way wherever it wants to go. It has to start forming base, so it will stop going down. It may not go higher, but at least it's not going down anymore.
Right.
And then it slowly will start moving higher. And that was a basic of which I got very substantial position in that stock. I sold covered calls just in case if I'm not right. And now stock is slowly starting to go higher. My strategy with covered calls is that, I will continue to watch it. And once they will be close to expiration, the time will start going out from them, so they will become on equal terms. So I will be already quite ahead on stock itself. So the worst case scenario, I will purchase this sold calls and replace them with the higher calls. Let's see. I sold, I think, 130, sometimes July, I forgot which, July 14th probably, 136 calls. Stock at the time was 134 and just started slow, at least it stopped going lower. So now it's today, I noticed 137. Okay. So I got some premium, of course, for the sold calls. So I'm still okay with the calls. I'm not making any money, but I'm not losing either. And I'm now making pretty good money. I bought a lot of shares, and I'm doing quite well on this. I'm surprised that NVIDIA is still going higher.
Yeah.
Quite unexpected. I'm waiting for NVIDIA to go a little bit lower so I could sell puts. Not at this levels. I'm not too anxious. Well, one day it should go lower. Come on. I mean, I did fun, and I still have a large position in NVIDIA, so I have no problem with it going higher.
I heard you say that it would break 500, and
yes, it will. Yeah,
I heard people scoffing at your prediction.
No.
It's getting there. It's already.
It will 500. 500. It's going to happen probably even this year. Now, in 2-3 years from now, what should I say? What, 600? Of course, it will be 600. Higher, could go higher. But don't forget that NVIDIA is very volatile stock. It's not going to go through straight line. It should have some setbacks and some.
It is in a sector that falls out of favor. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's why I'm slightly repositioning myself into stocks like pharmaceutical or so on, because even Pfizer looks very attractive today. I just think that
I've never been able to pull the trigger on Pfizer, but yeah, there's a lot of reason to like it. And what do you think of Johnson and Johnson?
You know what? It's too mainstream. It's part of Dow Jones and S&P 500 and so on. So S&P 500. It's well, sorry, Milan, in my opinion, it's a losing proposition simply because even if a couple of sectors in S&P 500 are going out of favor, especially heavily influenced sectors like high tech and so on, all S&P will go down, even if there are some other sectors that are doing well. So the name, in my opinion, the name of the game is follow the sectors and see inflow of money into certain sectors. It's not going with all sectors at the same time all the time. No, there is a rotation. There are certain sectors going out of
That's
favor.
been my observation as well.
Because this is how it all works, right? I discovered another very interesting pharmaceutical opportunity. The name of the company is I don't remember symbol. Something to do royalty. Let me take a look. I don't want to guess. The symbol is. I remember symbol because I'm dialing that quite often. RPRX.
I made a mistake in pharmaceuticals, so I wanted to cop to that because I, often tell my successes. But so that it's one of those things that they can be skyrocketing in price because of the new discovery or something like that. And they can fall out of favor very quickly too. And one that I thought was going to emerge with a generic product that was going to get a patent on it, and it didn't come through. And so now the generic product is made their product worthless. And so
that was happened with AbbVie's Humira, and this is one of the reasons it was going down for several months. But I think it stopped going lower.
Yeah, it was a total miscalculation on my part.
Hey, Sasha, Sasha and Tim, just really quickly, there was a MLM that I probably missed my opportunity on about 15 years ago because it was a friend that tried to get me into this product as an MLM, and I chose not to do it just because I don't like that model personally and everything. But as recently as last year, there's actually been drug companies that have been working on what that product was. And part of it was the acting job that the woman did that was selling it and everything. But it was actually female Viagra. And apparently that is a product that is out there that is actually a legitimate product. But at the time that my friend was trying to get me into it 15 years ago, it sounded like a scam. But you can actually look it up and see that it is an actual product that females are using to enhance that part of their life and everything.
Mark, I think MLM opportunity, it's about 30 years old business, say 20 maybe, but not less. Because today, see, like before, I remember some women and girls, they were doing some house parties and they were showing,
Tupperware.
Oh, look at that, it's Tupperware. It's wonderful. I use it now for the last 55 years and it's just incredible. The time has passed. Now there is no human interactions. Nobody is going to these little parties here and there. It's everything is done on internet or so on. All products are readily available at, say,
CVS, Walgreens.
Amazon.
Yeah, I know people have gone into this for vitamins,
Vitamins. Everything is on Amazon.
And it never works out.
Anything, whatever you need, you cannot find on Amazon. So this is a losing proposition. This is absolutely something as a 17th century stuff. It's not.
No, I agree with you, Sasha. Like I said, the person, and I've shared this story on a couple of other shows, but literally it was at a university. She got, you can rent a classroom or a room and everything, and she literally had the product being demonstrated, and it was quite hilarious hearing the person go through what they claimed the pill would do for them and everything in a dramatic acting. But I agree that it was at that time was a thing that might have been sold. I think some friends of mine might have got into that business, but that's old school now. And
it's a very inspiring story. All kudos to her. If you want to really listen to something interesting about MLM story, I was on one party about a month ago, and there was a friend of mine who all of a sudden said, "Oh, such and such person," mentioned the name, said never heard about it. He said he just purchased $6 million house. He is head of a $60 billion company, public company at that. And it's a MLM company. And I can show you actually one of the presentations where he's talking. The guy hardly even knows English. All he repeats during the 15 minutes presentation is that, look, I don't speak English properly, but I'm very rich, and you can be very rich. And it goes on for about 15 minutes, end of story. So actually, he's from Russia, and he used to be announcer in a circus. So he was saying, okay, now we have clowns, now we have horses, now
Master of ceremonies. Yes.
he was master of ceremonies. So he obviously knew how to talk. He learned about 500 words of English. And because he had absolutely no shame to talk about the stupid stuff that you can think about it, I don't believe, I checked, of course, it's public company. There is no such public company, of course. His videos that I watched, they were all done several years ago, 10, maybe 15 or so. So I don't think that I don't believe in the $6 million purchase of a house. To me, he was just a clown, nothing more, nothing less. But anyway, go through that stuff. So I cannot interrupt this guy, friend of mine, and say you are full of shit and you're talking about nonsense. No, I had to sit there and for 10 minutes listen to this stupid story. What can I say?
Well, I can understand. It's the old-fashioned notion of the snake oil salesman, and there were plenty of those back in the old West and all in that space. And there are a number of them that are out there now, and I've seen them sell everything from even travel plans, because there's one of those that's a very major travel agency and all in that space. So yeah, there's a lot of them that are out there, and I agree that the internet
every 10 years or so it's something new. It was snake oil, then it's something else, then it's something else, then it's something else.
If you business long, ultimately you go bankrupt. For example, in the 19th century, there were about 2,000 automobile companies. They were the equivalent of high-tech companies today. 2,000 automobile companies. By 2008, there were 3. Right. 2 of them went bankrupt. Could you have picked out the Ford Motor Company in the late 19th century as the one that will be successful and not go bankrupt? You couldn't. No. So the idea of buying individual stocks is a dangerous one. Buying the American economy as a whole is much, much safer, and it involves some risk because ultimately empires all have a 100% failure rate, but the failure of the American empire is nowhere near in sight yet. So buying the American economy as a whole by buying an exchange-traded fund which tracks the S&P 500 is a very safe way to go. So on a week-to-week basis, once in a while, the premium income that you receive from writing covered calls on SPY will not be as great as the drop in the market itself. But in the long run, you know that the American economy is going to be okay. So you bet on that, you'll be safe. Better than an individual stock, the stocks have if you stay in business long enough, you'll go bankrupt.
Hey, Milan, I'm going to tease you, and then I'm going to bounce on out here so y'all can close out and everything. But Milan, shouldn't I be investing in fillings and drills? Because you are a dentist, so I'm thinking that would be a safe investment if I invested in either fillings or in drills. And most people have the drill to get the filling in their mouth, and I know I have a couple of fillings in my mouth. So maybe that's what I need to invest in.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
I would like to ask you, Milan, a very interesting proposition. There are some people who are going to dentists, for example, to put some artificial teeth. Nowadays, all these new devices are being available. And some of the people, for example, they're going to procedures and they're paying later in either monthly installments or maybe 6 months later, a year later, or whatever. Let's say a person either unwilling or cannot pay, okay? So what the dentist can do, well, he will hope that maybe there will be some day when this person will be able to pay. But what if there would be a device that you can press the button? Let's say you tell him that he must pay in a month. Okay, here's a deadline, he didn't pay. So you activate certain device that his teeth is getting out of his mouth, and therefore,
I knew where you were going with this.
yeah, this is what kind of enforced payment system. Do you think is it possible?
Well, that's
It's
interesting.
not ethical. It's not ethical, mind you.
You know,
Get me wrong.
take a look at
Practical.
when dentists perform a procedure, say restore a tooth, they want it to last a lifetime. That's our objective, last a lifetime. No a 10-year lifespan because we need to make more refrigerators or we want to sell more automobiles or cameras.
No planned obsolescence in dentistry.
And planned obsolescence is something that dentists don't understand because our objective is to get the treatment that we provide to last a lifetime. And so, yeah, dentists very often don't get paid. Very often, it's high cost, high fee procedures, like let's say orthodontic treatment for your children, that can cost between $6,000 to $10,000 per child. So very often, dentists accept payment on a monthly basis, unrelated to the length of time that it takes to treat the child. And do dentists take a beating occasionally on that? Yes, they do. We do, and still. We can do very well as a profession. Dentists do very well, in spite of the fact that they have to take a kick in the shins. And yeah, mistakes are practice shots. So,
I'm laughing because I was thinking that this so-called master of ceremonies that I was telling you about, I'm pretty sure that he didn't pay out to a lot of people, including his dentist. So it would be very interesting to see, like during his presentation, his teeth all of a sudden comes out. So at least that would stop his nonsense.
You could get them to sign a waiver. If you don't pay, the teeth will come out of your mouth.
Yeah, you have 2 days left. You have 1 day left. Okay, tomorrow it goes. That would be quite interesting.
the thing that we should be looking at, apart from dentistry, is how can we take advantage of the fact that Toyota has come out with a battery that lasts, that can be charged to twice the level of current batteries and can be recharged in 10 minutes. That is and we should be able to somehow invest in that opportunity. It's a significant opportunity. If all cars were electric tomorrow, there wouldn't be the infrastructure to support them. So,
No, it doesn't exist now. We have to build it. But
yeah,
but with the battery increase in battery technology, the infrastructure would not have to be as robust as it would be today. So there's no question. And how do you get in front of that stuff? That's where you find out who's making those batteries, who's got the ingredients, who controls the ingredients, the resources that go into those batteries.
Toyota developed them. Toyota developed it, and they will sell the rights to use those batteries to others who pay for it. Sure, all electric sooner or later will have.
And that's what Tesla's doing. That's a big winning item for Tesla now. So if Toyota gets ahead of that, then Toyota's looking good for income, revenue for the foreseeable future. But we can't see that far into the future.
Toronto is a great company with or without this news about battery. They are actually very big on hydrogen cars.
Yeah.
They believe that this is very good alternative too.
See, that could be the future.
Yeah. Now, if you will look at all ecosystem of electric cars, they are all going bombastic. It's not just the Tesla. If you look at the Rivian, you're looking Neo, you're looking, just all of them are going higher and higher and higher because they are producing good cars, most of them, and they're selling like hotcakes. This is maybe one of the reasons why all companies. Oil is going down for a long time now. I think we discussed it last program. The oil sector is all going lower and lower and lower. And there is a war in Ukraine, and there are so many things happening in the world, and the oil going lower and lower. So it wouldn't be for war. It would go much lower than where it is now, in my opinion. So there is no case for oil becoming more expensive. There are some people I know believe that it will go to $150 a barrel and $200 a barrel and $500 a barrel. NVIDIA will go to $500 a share, but not oil. I'm sorry to say.
Oil has oil has many uses other than as a fuel, so that when it's no longer used to fuel fields, and that's going to happen, it'll still have a lot of applications.
Oil will always be in our future as long as we're alive. Yeah, that's true. Any uses.
But the demand for oil is going lower. Also.
I agree with that too. Hopefully that we're getting weaned off of that addiction.
Okay. Listen, we've covered a lot of grounds today, and I really appreciate your input.
Oh, thank you, Sasha.
Milan and Jim, it was great to see you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you same time next week. And Milan, please call Michael to find out if everything is all right with him. I was thinking that maybe some of his predictions last week didn't work out as well. Who knows? Let's find out. Thank you so much. See you next week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.